Thank you. Thank you, Professor Giuliani, to invite me for this important meeting and important problems to be discussed. I am not against vaccination, of course. I was working for 30 years at the Pasteur Institute, and I saw many Can you hear me? Yes, okay. I was saying that I'm not against vaccination, and I think most of those people which are here are not against vaccination in principle. It's a very good way to prevent disease, epidemic diseases, and my only concern is that the time has changed, and at the time of Pasteur, the concept of infectious disease was very clear, simple. One disease, one agent, one vaccine, which could protect for life. But unfortunately, now we are in a different world, and I'd like to show you a few slides. Actually, the real title of my talk was that toxic factor of our environment, impact on health and our future. So this covers a much larger problem than only vaccination, because we are facing factors which concern our alimentation, food production. Now we are using products of the industrial agriculture, massive production, but also production we need herbicide, and we will see that those herbicides may be factors of our disease, new disease. Chemical pollution in the air, in our food, in our everywhere. Electromagnetic pollution, this is something new, which is, of course, less sensitive now, because a few people are really sensitive to electromagnetic radiation. But us now, everybody is using computers, cell phone, and so on, and especially even young children. This could lead to very harmful disease. And of course, we are facing also the menace of climate warming, which will probably make the world more global in terms of infections. Vectors, mosquitoes will go to our countries as well. So what is the impact on health of those factors? Well, the immune system is less responding. Reproduction, perhaps also. The spermatozoa in men have decreased by half. New epidemics, we have seen already in this century, new epidemics occurring again, or even new, like the Zika virus, and chronic infectious disease, chronic disease, which also will eat more and more people, aging people, but also young people. And this list is not limited, but cancers are increasing, neurodegenerative disease are increasing, Alzheimer, Parkinson, autism in children, arthritic disease, cardiovascular, and disease vectorized by mosquitoes like yellow fever, dengue, Lyme disease by tick, chikungunya, and Zika by mosquitoes again. So this list is not limitative, but to show you that we are in a really different world than 100 years ago. And unfortunately, we are facing new chemicals. I take this example, glyphosate. Glyphosate is a very simple molecule. It's just the binding of a phosphonol group to an amino acid which is one of the elements of our proteins, glycine. So it's very simple to synthesize, and now is produced in 100,000 tons in several countries and used in the same country, but also exported throughout the world. A study made by Stephanie Seneff of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and Beecham has shown 2 years ago that the possible role of glyphosate or some mimetics of glycine is perhaps more important, is possibly carcinogenic effect. And without reading all of this, I'll just summarize and saying that it could intervene in the function of our brain and act to change some neuromédiator. So I think this is neglected, but we should know that everybody of us has probably glyphosate in his proteins, and I think some study on the urine content of glyphosate in children should reveal some very alarming facts. And this graph was taken from this article showing a strong correlation between the production of glyphosate in the United States, and this is just terminated in 2010, this curve is continuing now, showing that the children with autism show a similar increase. And this is very alarming. The CDC of the United States show that there is a continuous increase in the recent years of diagnosis of autism or related syndromes in children. Now it's 1 in 28 for boys and 1 in 18 girls. So this is something which is a fact. Of course, whatever the cause, this is a fact. We have to consider, because if this curve is continuing, even all the new generation of children, or new generation, or future, is maybe dysfunctioning because of some cause, of course. So this is perhaps one cause, but correlation does not mean causality. I'm not saying that glyphosate is causing autism, but it may participate to a very complex disease which has probably several factors. At the beginning, infectious agent. Actually, I presented at the French Academy of Medicine in 2012, based on the measure of electromagnetic signals that probably in the plasma of autistic children, that probably there was a change in the microbiomic flora in the intestine, and some passage of those germs in the blood. Actually, we measure in the plasma the traces of DNA by PCR and also by the measure of electromagnetic signals of a new group of bacteria. Bacteria pre-existing, of course, in the environment, but finding those bacteria in the blood is probably highly pathogenic. This is the group of Sutterella, but now using larger primers. The first primer were designed by a group in Colombia, that of Jan Lipkin, and we use those primers to detect, with the help of other colleagues from our group, CONIMED, but also with the collaboration of Dr. Antonucci from Bari, we measure the DNA of those bacteria in the blood of autistic children, Italian, French, and other European countries. So this indicates that probably a change, the first event is a change in the microbiota, but also a change in the passage of this type of bacteria from the intestine to the blood. So there are two events already, which is very important. But after that, of course, chemicals could act at different levels. And unfortunately also, some compounds present in vaccine. Vaccines are made, as Professor Tao said, there are two types of vaccine, mostly. Vaccine using attenuated live viruses, which are made in culture of human cells. And vaccine now which are recombinant, mostly made from, first from kit viruses, like the polio, but also now made by recombinant proteins of different viruses. And I was part of this, because at the Pasteur Institute, I was the first to suggest to use the new genetic engineering techniques to make components of virus which could be used as vaccine. And this was at the origin of hepatitis B vaccine in our that institute with the team of Pierre Thiollet. Why aluminium? Well, aluminium has to be used, was used as an adjuvant of vaccination. Why? Because the recombinant proteins are pure proteins. They are not as immunogenic as a full virus vaccine or the live vaccine. So we have to add adjuvants. And the first adjuvant used in the 1920s was aluminum hydroxide or aluminum phosphate. Nothing wrong with that. But this aluminum, when injected inside muscles, is highly immunogenic, but unfortunately also it can cause disease. I'm not, some people say aluminum is used everywhere. Of course, we are using aluminum in our cuisine, in the life of every day. But absorbing aluminum is different from injecting aluminum inside the muscles. And it was shown by a work 10 years long by Professor Gherardi in France, and this has been confirmed by several other groups, that this aluminum stays very long first in the injection site, but later also is taken up by macrophage, and macrophage will carry that aluminum even to the brain if the barrier is open. So aluminum has to be replaced, and this is one very important requirement of using vaccine, is to diminish the aluminum content or even suppress it. Actually, vaccine for animals, for cats and cats and dogs are free of aluminum. And there was an advertisement recently for promoting the vaccination against flu, the flu shot, and saying this vaccine does not contain aluminum. So even the commercial use now imply that we should ask for the removal of aluminum in vaccine. And actually at the Pasteur Institute in the 1970, there was one of my colleagues, Dr. Oliveld, who said, well, now I have a better adjuvant, which has not the inconvenience of aluminum, which was not already known at that time. The inconvenience at that time was more, it was inducing allergy and autoimmune diseases. And he could replace aluminum salt by calcium phosphate salt, and having the most equivalent adjuvant effect without the inconvenience of aluminum. So the technique existed, but unfortunately, the firm created by the Pasteur Institute at that time, Pasteur Vaccin, was bought by a bigger firm, the Mérieux Institute, and then Sanofi, and the calcium phosphate was completely forgotten just for financial reasons. This is why I think the most important deviation now for the use of vaccine is that the finance is involved, not the health of children. I added to this list also electromagnetic radiation. Here we don't know exactly. They are probably good and bad electromagnetic radiation for health, but this has to be investigated. And we know that there are experiments in animals showing that electromagnetic exposure, even to low frequency and low energy radiation, can open the barrier between blood and brain. So this is what I said in 2012, that first, a possible infectious agent. I didn't talk any way about vaccine. I talked just about this agent. But since I was invited by a society of parents against autism, Autism One, my presence was used to say I'm against vaccine. I'm not against vaccine. I'm just for vaccine, safe and effective. That's all. And I'm not the only one. So the importance of the barrier is opening by several factors, explain the complexity of infectious disease, infectious chronic disease. But this is not only for autism. It's also true for Alzheimer, Parkinson. The mechanism is similar, not identical, but similar. The bacteria involved or the virus involved are not the same, of course, but this permeability of the barrier is, I think, a factor which is present in most of the neurodegenerative disease. So this change, and we have to be aware that this should come back, and this depends mostly on our behavior, especially for the fight against the effect of electromagnetic radiation. So this slide just reminds that I was not alone. We are not alone in that study on autism, but this study was made at the Columbia University, showing the role of Sutterella, of the group of Sutterella bacteria. But very curiously, this study was not continued by the same group. Why? Probably just for lack of funding for this kind of research. Now, I'm turning now to another example of, I would say, a disaster in vaccination. As Dr. Tarot, there have been very good examples, especially in the past. But more recently, a French firm, again, was promoting a vaccine against dengue. Dengue is a very important disease transmitted by mosquito in tropical area, like yellow fever. The virus actually is close to the yellow fever virus. And unfortunately, the disease is complex. There are the role of antibody enhancement of disease by the vaccination. Why is that possible? I will show you. This has been actually studied in a team which involve some people involved in the phase 3 trial of this new vaccine. And it showed that the vaccine can increase, the vaccination can increase the dangerous aspect of the disease. This disease, at the first infection, is not lethal. There is some fever, interferon production, but there is a good survival. But if there is a new infection with another subtype of virus, this can lead to the production of antibodies. The antibody from the first infection will favor the infection of cells, especially cells of the immune system, by the second type of virus, and cause what we call hemorrhagic dengue, which could be lethal. And this is what happened actually at the Philippines. I would say, hundreds of thousands of children have been treated by this vaccine, and there have been reports of several deaths already. So now the Philippine government is suing the firm which was first very happy to have this new type of vaccine and treat children, but goodwill does not suffice. I think it's very important to know the complexity of the immune reaction in some infectious disease, because this is not impossible to occur also in children vaccinated with the measles virus, the measles attenuated virus. So the lesson of this is important. Of course, we should continue making vaccine, but being aware of measuring antibody is not sufficient. And some study should be done in animals before. Of course, we need animal models before using the children as guinea pigs. And this article actually has been published a few months later than the article on the past vaccine, the effect on infectious disease. This is in November 2017 in the magazine Science. This has been published. So this cartoon will show you what happens. The antibody, heterotypic from another subtype of virus. There are 4 subtypes. The antibody from the first infection will bind cells, the receptor for this antibody, especially immune cells, monocyte, macrophage. And this will allow to have more target cells for the virus and increase also the T cell response. And finally, lead to inflammatory production of cytokines and lead to a very serious disease and death sometime. And it was shown that it was the case of individual having a certain titer of antibodies. But of course, this will preclude the use of mass vaccination. I think each individual should need measurement of his antibody titer first. So, and this is impossible in a mass vaccination. Now, I'd like to just, in passing, show you that the hepatitis B vaccine, which, of course, should be a big improvement, but unfortunately, this vaccine, especially in mass vaccination in France, because the Minister of Health at that time, in the 90s, decided that all the boys and girls at the high school level should be vaccinated. So millions of people have been vaccinated, and unfortunately at that level we see some side effects. This slide shows you in white the peak of consumption of the vaccine. It was a good thing for the firm making that vaccine, of course. Firms, so period. in plural. But in black, you see the increase of multiple sclerosis cases. So there are, of course, explanation. Perhaps some of the proteins of the hepatitis B vaccine are similar to the myelin because there was a demyelination occurring in those individuals. Or it could be the effect of the aluminum adjuvant. It's known that the aluminum adjuvant can cause autoimmune disease. Anyway, this is a fact, of course, which could not be really predicted. But again, we have to be very vigilant in the attempt of new types of vaccine, especially where those vaccines are mandatory, so they have to be given to a given population. So my conclusion is that we should avoid absolutely iatrogenic medicine, disease and death by ignorance. And science must include all facts, even those which are not fitting with our previous ideas, theory, or ideology. And if we just include only the positive facts and not the negative aspect of vaccination, we create, it's not science, of course, it's pseudoscience, but we create also a doubt in the parents, in the people which are, and the pediatrician, which are also involved in vaccination. A doubt on the safety of vaccine, not efficacy in those cases, but safety. And I was going to remind you, in this country, of course, we are also completely involved in the Greek authorities in the past. Hippocrates, primum non nocere, should be respected. And also, more recently, the precautionary principle should be adopted, should be used, actually, has been adopted by UN at Rio de Janeiro in 1992, and also by European Community in 2000, especially for the health problems. And I'd like to, if I have still some time, to finish with some bad example taken in France. In France, we have seen several scandals in the past of health. Not vaccine. Factor 8 and 9 contain the HIV virus, and they were given to thousands of hemophiliacs. Most of them died. The growth hormone was extracted from the pituitary gland of cadavers in boarding hospital. And this, the Creutzfeldt-Jakob agent, prion, was present in those extracts. I was asked by the director of the Pasteur Institute, because this was done at the Pasteur Institute, the extraction. I was asked by the director, Jacques Monod, my opinion. I sent my opinion, which was saying that this will not, the extraction technique will not inactivate the virus, the classical virus, but also the Creutzfeldt-Jakob agent. Unfortunately, 120 children died in 2 years' time after this injection. Vioxx, you know, the Vioxx inhibitor, the cyclooxygenase 2 inhibitors, which induce platelet aggregation and coronary disease in many, many American patients, but also in Europeans. Aluminium already passed this, and dengue vaccine. So we are now in a step in which we should prevent any accidents, because this has caused the death of people. And it's possible that the injection to newborn children will still induce a larger disaster, because it's known that well, it's not known, the origin of sudden death of some babies at the age of 5, 6 months. If we go back to their history, in 95% of the cases in the United States, there is a vaccination. So it's obligatory in science to look for the possibility, I'm not saying the cause, but to the possibility there is correlation between vaccination and sudden death. And now some vaccination here in France are advised to be mandatory for vaccination within the 2 years of after birth. I think this is an error, a medical error, and for the minister, a political error. And this is an example to finish of a child who died from that. And the court, the special court which was installed in the United States to compensate parents for this kind of death, this has been accepted. And the most important money, but this will not, of course, resuscitate the child. So this is irreversible damage. And my advice, please do not vaccinate before the age of 2. This curve shows simply, it should be also continued now because it stopped at 2010, but showing that in the United States, due to the fact that some states are making mandatory many vaccines, the death before the age of 1 year is higher than in other developed countries. So even at the epidemiological level, we have to discuss the importance of some mandatory vaccination on the morbidity and mortality of future generation. I'd like to finish by saying that I'm still for prevention, including by vaccine, but prevention also implies some other changes in behavior, in habits of nutrition, and so on. But also we have now a tool of laboratory markers which could be used for prediction of coming disease, including also personalization. This has to be, everybody agree on that now, especially for cancer. And participation, a dialogue between doctors and parents. Finally, if we respect health over economy and not economy on health. That's all.